Gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for joining us again on Hudson County Review Live. I'm your host. You probably know me as John Hollywood Highness. Today, we're joined with former governor, also the executive director of the Jersey City Employment and Training Program, as well as the chair of the NJ Re-Entry Corporation, James McGreevey. Governor, it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And more importantly, we have the great Annabelle.
Hello, everyone.
It's excellent to be here today. So
thank you for coming to 398 Martin Luther King Drive and coming to our community. And I'm just very much honored that you guys are with us. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, obviously, there's a whole ton of stuff to talk about. Let's start right off the bat here with this new immigration clinic you guys are going to be doing in Union City next month. So this is the first one, the inaugural event. Just tell us a little bit about the location, St. Anthony's Church, and what exactly you guys are going to be doing there.
Well, so... for many of our clients are court-involved individuals, and we're blessed to have over 4,000 clients throughout the New Jersey Re-Entry Corporation, many of them from Hudson County, whether it's Union City or whether Jersey City or all throughout Hudson County. But particularly for those Latino clients who have questions of status and who are court-involved, criminal charges pending, have a history of incarceration. Unfortunately, with the present position or the disposition of this White House, many of our clients are candidly under threat. And so the goal of the immigration clinic, and it's going to be on Thursday, July 19th, and again from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at St. Anthony's. And the goal of that, and Mayor Stack, is we'll be performing at least 2 miracles.
I believe
exactly. That. And literally fishes and loaves. But, I mean, what we're trying to do is work cooperatively to try to address some of the legitimate issues. I mean, people have concerns as to their children, as to their immigration status, of what does it mean to have been arrested? What does it mean to have been convicted? What does access to identification mean? So we're going to have some of the best lawyers, some of the best, candidly, public activists there at the immigration clinic on Thursday, July 19th, to answer people's questions. So this is going to be very much on the ground. It's going to be both in Spanish and in English to answer very practical questions that people may have. Say, for example, difficult questions. A parent may realize they have a jeopardized status. How does that impact their children?
Sure.
What can they do to protect their children's legal interests? So it's going to be really exhaustive. And as we're talking about the immigration landscape in the state of New Jersey, where's New Jersey? What laws are and what relief and what representation? Where can I go, John, to be adequately represented in the court, as well as what does the criminal law say? And what's the relationship between the criminal law and immigration law? And also in terms of protecting our children. If I have 2 children, if I have 2 daughters, what can I do to protect them? And so the whole goal is to make people aware of not only federal enforcement, but how that relates to state enforcement in the interplay between immigration and criminal justice.
Now, Governor, as you know, national politics is not my forte, but, I mean, you couldn't turn on the TV this week without hearing about, or even just log onto the internet without hearing about what President Trump was doing and what the U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement was doing, and, we heard all this stuff about the Mexican border. I mean, what kind of feedback are you getting from your clients about that?
Well, I mean, one, there's a sense of, as an American, there's a sense of shame. I mean, never did I think that, my grandparents came to this country from Ireland and they came to practice their Catholic faith and to work, and never did I think that in this country we'd be separating children from their parents, and there's something almost jarring about it. Like, this is the country of the Statue of Liberty, give me your huddled masses, and we're engaging in actions that are, I find to be morally objectionable. But for a lot of our clients, in fact, we were just meeting with the prosecutor earlier today, is that we try to make our clients whole. We try to make them to be productive, engaged citizens in the community. But in the back of their mind, if they're concerned about ICE, if they're concerned about immigration, that interferes with their ability to reunify with their family, to apply for a job, to provide for a skill-based job training. So our responsibility is to be an advocate for our clients, to work diligently and vigorously for our clients, clients, but to be aware of the law and to be aware of the changes that Washington and the impact ICE has on the life of our clients. So we have to be thoughtful, we have to be aware, we have to be on the cutting edge of the law to make sure that we have all the knowledge necessary to protect our clients' interests.
A little closer to home, I mean, I'm sure you're aware Governor Murphy signed an order this week saying that he wouldn't allow any state resources to be used in any of these sort of immigration enforcement actions. So, someone who's obviously intimately familiar with how Trenton works, what did you think of that order?
That's clear, and I appreciate what the governor did, but the reality is ICE has all the resources they need. I mean, we've had clients that have literally gone to probation, and ICE officials were there to take our clients. So, I mean, while I think it is good for governors all over this country to say this is not something that we support, the real problem is the authority and the jurisdiction of ICE, and as is presently being manifested, as is presently being directed by the president. And so the reality is, for our clients, we have to protect them, and that's why this immigration conference, if I can,
sure, go ahead,
is really important. Again, it's Thursday, July 19th at St. Anthony of Padua Roman Catholic Church on 615 8th Street in Union City. And the whole goal is to learn your rights on immigration landscape, on relief, representation, how to properly select a lawyer, the interplay between the criminal law and immigration law. It's sometimes very different. The importance of protecting your children, federal enforcement, state actions, and advocacy. What should we do as a community? I know today's Senator Menendez, and I'm so grateful for his leadership, had a rally with clergy leaders.
Yeah, Elizabeth,
in
right?
Elizabeth, outside the ICE detention center. Those actions continue to bring pressure on the federal government to hold them accountable for their actions and their care, their custodial care of our clients, both in the facility as well as children.
Gotcha. All right, Governor. Well, I think that sufficiently covers that topic. Let's talk a little.
But I do, if I can, John, just say, and if I just want to emphasize that,
Sure,
everybody's welcome here. Everybody is safe here. This is, as I say all the time, John, this is sacred space. I mean, when you walk in, there's the picture of Mother Teresa and Dr. King, and it's all about service. For me, there's that great scripture, Mark's Gospel, the Son of Man comes not to be served, but to serve. And so we try to serve others. And so we serve without regard to status, without regard to affiliation. And we want to make sure that all of Hudson County knows we want to help people stay healthy, stay sober, be productive in terms of employment, in terms of job training. We work diligently to have people have skill-based technical skills so that they compete in the marketplace. So we're not, we realize, as the old spiritual says, we fall down, but we get up. We're in the business of helping people return to active, productive life.
understood. So actually, that was where I was going, though. New Jersey Re-Entry Corporation, obviously you guys have done a lot in the past few years beyond Hudson County. You're in 9 counties now. So just tell me a little bit about the work going on throughout the state and how they all, meet back in the middle, how they all relate.
Sure. Part of it is to understand that New Jersey is, and this nation, say I'll take the national perspective first, the United States is 5% of the world's population, but we're 25% of the world's incarcerated population. That means we lock up more of our fellow Americans than any country locks up a percentage of their fellow nationals. And so if we're 5% of the world's population, but 25, a quarter of the world's incarcerated population, that means we are locking up a significant percentage of our fellow citizens. The damage that, John, that does to children, the damage that does to families, they all talks about the increased percentage of children of incarcerated persons for themselves to become incarcerated. And so we're about second chances, and we say all the time, everyone deserves a second chance.
Right.
I know in my life, but in any event, I was going to quote scripture again, but this isn't a religious show. But part of it is to understand, to help people. So when I come out of prison, typically, I won't have any identification. I'll have a Department of Corrections ID card, and that's all I'll have. With that Department of Corrections ID card, I can't get an apartment. I can't get a job. I can't access general assistance. I can't access workforce training. I can do nothing. So the first thing we do is work to have people get identification or driver's license.
Makes sense.
Identification is almost like a sci-fi episode. If you don't have identification today.
You don't exist.
It's almost, exactly, thank you. It's almost as if you don't exist. So we have, many of our clients only have that Department of Corrections ID. So we work with Motor Vehicle Commission. And say, for example, you're in Jersey City right now, but
Yeah.
Jersey City can't issue their own birth certificates. We go
Right,
down
yeah.
to Trenton once a week, and we get birth certificates for people here in Hudson County.
Okay.
Literally, once a week, somebody drives down to Trenton and says, all right, here's John's name, here's Jim's name, here's Annabelle's name. Can we get up their birth certificate? And then we build up their credentials. All right, here's your birth certificate. And then we move towards your Social Security. And then we move to your MVC identification. And then we help people, with their driver's license. So identification. Then we also have a volunteer network of 72 lawyers from throughout the state of New Jersey. We won't take on new criminal charges, but we'll take out outstanding warrants. So many of our clients have legal wreckage from their past, and so we walk into municipal courts trying to clean up those past warrants so they can gain access to their driver's license.
Sure.
We help people, recommend people to sober, structured housing, sobriety, safe, sober housing. Then what's also really important is to maintain sobriety. Maintaining sobriety. About 80% of our clients have a history of alcoholism and addiction. It's sobriety. You can't be a good father. You can't be a good mother if you're using dope, or a good employee, and so it's sobriety. And then we connect people to health care, to a federally qualified health center, which is so important, and get them eligible for Medicaid. So they have access to their prescription drug products, whether it's for hepatitis C or diabetes or HIV, as well as to make sure they have access for mental health care counseling. So it's legal services, those medical services, it's housing, but also employment and training. And that's why it's so important that Annabelle's here today. I don't know if she wants to share her story. Annabelle, talk a little bit. Is that all right, John? To talk a little bit about what we do with New Jersey Build.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
So we have a very exciting opportunity through the NJ Build grant, where we're allowing.
Forget the notes.
Oh, sorry.
Just look at John.
So we're allowing anyone. Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yes. Good.
Okay. We have an exciting opportunity.
Our big shot producer.
Go
We have
ahead.
a great opportunity through New Jersey Build to allow anyone who has an interest in the construction industry to come forth. If you have prior experience in the construction industry or simply like to change your career paths, we can help you. Through a grant from the New Jersey Department of Labor, we're able to provide pre-apprenticeship training as well as opportunities in the industry through trade unions or contractors and subcontractors. So if you're interested, we're looking for women, low income,
We're looking for
minorities.
anybody who wants to change their life. And the
Exactly.
whole goal to go to
Anyone.
Annabelle is that to give opportunities for people who want to do something different. And my passion happens to be persons that have made mistakes in their life and have gone to jail, John, or gone to prison. But it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that. It can be Latino, African American, women, poor folks, whatever. And so how would they contact you, Annabelle?
Sure. So my number is 551-222-4341, or come visit us.
Wait, you got to say that again.
Sure. 551-222-4341.
I'm 60 years old now. You got to go a little slower so I can
Okay.
hear. One more time.
551-222-4341.
And the great thing about this program, John, just so you know,
Okay, go ahead.
is that we're going to be taking people, we're going to be administering something called the tape test.
This is brand new?
This is brand new. Well, we did it before in the state, but the state actually gave us more money.
So new and improved.
New and improved, well, because I think we did a good job and we got a federal grant, and we work with Pat Kelleher from the building trades and
Yep.
our friend Freeholder
Construction Labor
Bill,
Council, yeah.
and Bill O'Day. And so what we're looking to do is, and we're doing this pretty much throughout the northern part of New Jersey, but it's really going to benefit folks in Hudson County because this is our headquarters. This is where we are every day, day in and day out. And so what we're going to do is we're going to give the tape test, and that's a little math test and a language arts test. We tell you, if you're...
To get some benchmarks.
Thank you. A fancy word, benchmarks. You know all the jargon. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to help you improve those scores and then get something into a pre-apprenticeship program. So you learn basic skills. You learn what to do with wood. You learn what to do with electric. You learn what to do with basic building. So you get pre-apprentice. And then at that particular time, after you get your license, and that's important. You need to have your license, so you need to have your ID, you need to clean out your bench warrants, you need to address the child support, you need to work with MVC, and that's where our whole cadre of volunteer lawyers is important.
Sure.
And so then we get your license, we get you into healthcare so you're healthy, but then basically what we're going to do is you're going to at the same time move through this pre-apprenticeship program, and at that particular point in time then we'll go to the individual building trades, whether it's the carpenters, the laborers, the operating engineers, and get people into those unions. So I'm really excited because what this means, and from Jersey City, like my dad grew up on 50 Lafayette, my mother was 221 Clark Street, and we were Arlington Avenue.
Interesting.
Like right back here.
Yeah.
But it was candidly for my father's father. He came off the boat. There's a great story. He became a police officer, and I said, Dad, how did my grandpa, who had like a 5th grade education, become a police officer? He said, the parish priest called downtown and took the test, and the Democratic Party got him in. I'm glad Jersey City worked back then, and I got a great picture of my grandfather on the old 4th precinct in Jersey City. But my mother's father was the operating engineers.
Cool.
And so they were working people, and that's how they got in. So what we want to do is to the next generation of Jersey City, the next generation of Hudson County, is give people those opportunities and to take us at face value. Annabelle's family comes from Ecuador to this country, and she's brilliant, and she works really hard, and she's doing it, but we're having really aggressive outreach. So we ask people to take us seriously, to give people this opportunity. And so we just ask people humbly to think about this pre-apprenticeship program.
Sounds like you guys thought it through a little bit, so I imagine you're going to get some calls.
I don't get any of the credit. Annabelle gets the credit, but
All of it.
yeah, she does because she works hard day in and day out. But I think what we do is with reentry, and this is so important, is people can spend 5 months or 5 years or 15 years in prison, and they can max out. That means serve the entirety of their time and walk out with nothing.
Right.
And what we do is we help them to provide for housing, to sober, structured housing, addiction treatment, their medical care, their legal care to address the outstanding warrants, and also employment and training and employment and training. At the end of the day, we try to get somebody ready to be a good employee, and then we give them the skills necessary to succeed. But when guys come out and they don't have a house, they don't have food, they don't have a loving family, and they don't have a job, what do you expect them to do?
Yeah.
I don't think people come out after 15 years or 5 years in jail and say, I just can't wait to get back to that cage and get locked up for 23 hours out of 24 hours. I don't think that's where people are at. But people have got to eat. Mm-hmm. People have got to sleep. And that's what we do. We serve people who want to make that change.
And if I could just interject real quick, so you keep mentioning safe, sober housing, which obviously sounds like a necessity, but how do you define that? How do you come to determine what safe, sober housing is and where it is?
Sure. Well, we work with different providers, and we work with providers that help, whether it's Garden State Episcopal, whether it's Catholic Charities, different providers, both in Jersey City and Hudson County, as well as elsewhere to provide for these relationships. Now, one of the challenges, as you mentioned, is to get people qualified for general assistance and maybe, for example, emergency assistance when they need housing on an exigent basis. And the problem is sometimes the laws are conflicting. Say, for example, what is a Medicaid threshold as opposed to what is a threshold to receive a Pell Grant or a TAG Grant for college. So our case managers know what all of these financial rules are, what all the requirements are, what is the requirement for selective service to get on-the-job skill-based training to become a CD, to get your certified driver's license.
Yeah,
so
CDL.
So all of this is so critically important.
Got it. So is there a difference, other than obviously different people, when somebody walks into, obviously here we are at 398 MLK Drive at Jersey City, versus when they go to Patterson, versus when they go to, one of your locations down the shore? Again, obviously it's different people working there, different people coming in and out, but are there any tangible differences beyond that?
Well, the model should be the same, right? So the model, we want people to walk through the door, whether they're from drug court, or whether they're from parole, or whether they've maxed out of prison or county probation, or the federal system, or they've been released pursuant to bail reform. We want people to walk through our doors and allow us to be of service to them. But there are some nuanced differences. For example, in Jersey City, Jersey City, I think in part to the mayor's leadership, is undergoing a construction boom. So obviously there are job opportunities there. That's very different, for example, than in Ocean County. In Ocean County, it's a very different market. It may be lumber there. It may be luxury boats there. So what we try to do is try to take an evaluation of the regional economy and develop skill-based training that is linked to jobs in that economy. So obviously, if there's not a significant amount of construction happening, say, for example, in a particular county, you're not going to be really driving the pre-apprenticeship construction trade program, because candidly, if you move all these people through that program, they may not find a job. So what we try to do is an evaluation of the economic base of the county with which we're in. Say, for example, Patterson.
Yeah.
Patterson still has a lot of small manufacturing, skill-based manufacturing. So we try to be sensitive to the skills that are required. Elizabeth, for example, still has a lot of oil refinement, and so in Union County. So we try to train people to receive those skills, what they call industry-recognized credentials, so those skills to compete in that marketplace. So if Jim McGreevey walks into the Oak Bayview refinery and I have these credentials, those will be recognized as being valid for my employment.
Got it. So let's bring it back home. So the Jersey City Employment and Training Program, obviously this is something you've been doing for several years now. Just what do you tell me about some of the growing pains? Obviously there was a time when people weren't too happy about you considering changing the location or adding a new location. And obviously, at the beginning, I'm sure it was hard just to get funding and things like that.
Sure. We have the One Stop. The One Stop is on 438 Summit Avenue, and so, we have people from all over the community. But then we also wanted to do, and I wanted to, again, publicly thank Mayor Fulop, because we wanted to do something in the community, in Greenville, in Lafayette. And my dear friend, Senator Cunningham, whose office is just down the road, is an incredible supporter of all what we do, whether it's expungement legislation, whether it's support for our efforts at New Jersey Build, putting people back to work, whether understanding the necessity for working with parole, working with probation. So the point, John, and Senator Cunningham says it far better than I ever could, is that we're willing to spend $55,000 a year to put somebody in a cage in prison, but all that we have is $2,200 a year in reentry to help them with housing, to help them with addiction training, to help them with health care, to help them with legal services, and to help them with employment. So we could make, and Senator Cunningham does it well, is that make the argument that we're actually saving the taxpayers' money. Our rate of reincarceration of people who come through a program that are reincarcerated is less than 10%. That means 90% of our clients aren't going back into the system at a cost of $55,000 a year. You think, people hear these sentences, but the reality is somebody who's in prison for 20 years, that's costing the taxpayers $1 million. So what
$1 million?
Yeah, $1 million. $1 million is a lot of money.
I think so.
Especially to a kid from, Greenville. Or now I'm living off of Journal Square down by St. Peter's. But the point is, on a serious note, we can do so much, and so what we do is get people stabilized and healthy in healthcare, addiction treatment, housing, those identification legal issues. But then what Annabelle's doing in terms of jobs, and we're also working with the New Jersey Manufacturing Association to looking at different credentialing. We're looking at the federal government. So we have a wide range of programs to help people get employment. Did you want to touch on?
Sure. So I wanted to let them know that if you want to make a change, come to us, because we will help you find an avenue for where your talent can help the community and better yourselves and better your family.
So we're talking about a lot of course, self-improvement, and some of the times that, of course, involve sobriety, as you've noted several times today.
Well, the drug problem is a real, and I just want to say, that we work with drug treatment providers, and this fentanyl is killing us. The stuff that's on the street, and I say to these young kids, you've got to wake up. This is real. The fentanyl, this isn't, like, we're not talking about alcohol, we're not talking about the cocaine, we're not even talking about heroin. The fentanyl is 100 times stronger than the heroin, and the carfentanil is stronger than the fentanyl. This is the stuff that they use to take down a full-grown male bull elephant in Africa. Can you imagine what that's like in your veins for a 145-pound young girl or boy? I mean, they don't even use we met with the Drug Enforcement Agency, John. They don't even use the dogs anymore because the dogs sniff it and they go into congestive heart failure and they die.
Wow, I never heard that.
And so people have got to understand, these young kids, you do this once, and you're jeopardizing your life, not only in terms of your heart and your breathing, but what it does literally to the neural pathways in your mind. In your mind, you have these nodes, and what happens is the opiate attaches to the nodes, and it literally changes what they call the neuroplasticity in the mind. And so even if Jim, who's an addict, gets clean and gets detox, the changes brought upon by the fentanyl last for a full year until I'm clean for the entirety of that time. And so those cravings are real. And so we work with treatment providers, but I bet, somebody said, we have partnerships with Integrity House just on the other side of this fancy desk. And, one of the guys, Raheem, said to me, you can get fentanyl easier than you can get aspirin. So, I mean, I need it for the church, I need for the community, I need for the courts, for the police, for all of us, and particularly young people to take responsible for themselves, especially these young guys. Girls are so much more responsible than boys at that age. They are. I mean, like, the guys are like almost complete knuckleheads. And so, I mean, sometimes I'm tough on them, but they need that toughness. They need to understand that these drugs, we had a client, he thought he was doing cocaine, it was laced with fentanyl, and literally he died.
Wow.
And so the point is this stuff kills, and you have to be smart.
Well, that seems like sound advice. I was actually going to go in the opposite direction, though. I was actually going to say, what do you think about the possibility of potentially legalizing marijuana here in New Jersey?
Oh, God, I'm old-fashioned, John. Don't ask me that question. As I get older, I'm more like my father. So, I guess, I'm grappling with this right now with the fentanyl crisis. So, I mean...
So you're of the belief that it is a gateway drug and it leads to...
Well, actually, you can make the argument, and it has been made significantly by scientists, that marijuana actually reduces the reliance on heroin and fentanyl.
Okay.
So that, and I'll just say for my own family.
Sure.
God rest her soul, my aunt, she was suffering, and she literally couldn't swallow anymore, and I never thought, basically looking for medical marijuana just to relax her throat so she could swallow. And unfortunately, it was so difficult to get. You would have to go to Philadelphia, and she'd have to come with us. And physically, she was in no capacity to do it. So I think medical marijuana is a good first step, provided it's stringently regulated, and it is really alleviating the suffering of people that, ironically don't want to take OxyContin. So when you talk about the opioid crisis, so many of these drugs start out because they're pain medications. So if marijuana can help alleviate the over-reliance on opioids, particularly as people in the last weeks of life, I'm all for it. Because it's not only smart, it's not only more compassionate, but it'll give, God willing, people a measure of comfort.
Okay, I think that's a reasonable perspective most people can agree on.
Yeah, and it's born out of personal experience, which is probably always, John, the most educative process.
Sure.
I think I just made up a word.
So, off the cuff, this really has nothing to do with re-entry. Real quick, just one. I wanted to get your take on something that happened this week. There was a story at NJ Advanced Media about Governor Murphy's son and some recent troubles he had with the law. Obviously, when you were in Trenton, you were no stranger to headlines, and you know what it's like when people, learn things about your private life, not particularly in the way you would have hoped. So, what was your take on that? Did you feel like that was above board, towing the line, completely unacceptable? How did you see it?
Well, as a father, and I saw the story, and one I felt immediately for Josh, so every young person growing up makes mistakes. And obviously felt for the parents, for Tammy and for the governor. So it's just, I don't know if I'm in the position to tell the press what they can do or what they can't do, but all that I would say is, as a father, clearly I don't think that's necessarily, if it were my son, if it were my daughter, clearly I wouldn't want that covered. I don't think I ought to be in the position to say to the press what should be covered or what's not. I mean, I don't pay their bills. But what I would ask people to understand is I've seen great families. I know a family that lost 2 kids to overdose, to deaths. This is an exceptional family. This is a family that if you would look at them and say, like literally, I hate using this term, but almost like the perfect family, loving wife, loving father, loving husband, 3 kids, but it's who those kids hung out with, and I'm not blaming the kids. They made the decision ultimately to take the heroin, to take the opioids, and to take the fentanyl. So, I mean, in today's society, and maybe this sounds old-fashioned, but the worst thing I did when we were a kid was, we did Boone's Ripple wine or something, or maybe, the worst thing we ever did was, Jameson's whiskey, or was it that awful stuff in college, Jägermeister. But I mean, it's just like, oh my God, it was like, tasted like bad medicine. But I mean, like now kids take stuff that kills them, right?
Right.
So it's like, it's an entirely different game, and can't bluntly, young men, particularly, their minds aren't necessarily formed in terms of their cognitive development to make rational decisions. I mean, to make thoughtful decisions. And that's a really important people. There was National Geographic did a great issue on the teenage mind and literally showed how teenagers make decisions, particularly teenage boys, and how they don't make cognitive decisions the way you would or I would or Anna would. So that you need to be really mindful of how they assess risk, how they assess reward. Why through the history of time did young men fight wars? Because they take irrational risks in the face of real demonstrative threats. So, for the Murphy family, I've met Josh a couple times. He seems like a delightful young man, and I just pray and I'm hopeful for their family. And, I go back, not to quote the Bible again, but those of you without sin cast the next stone. And I think there are very few American families who haven't been touched by addiction, alcohol, mental health, depression, challenging issues. And imagine, I know I'm out of politics now.
Theoretically.
Yeah, out. But to be grappling with that on the front pages of the paper while you're trying to do the right thing for your kid, that's tough. Mm-hmm. And that's just a human response.
Gotcha. All right, Governor, I'm going to end on this. Obviously, I'm sure you have a lot to talk about, but I'm going to end on this note. If you want to continue, obviously, I'm still here. But on this note, so Jersey City Employment and Training Program, you guys have obviously come a long way. NJ Re-Entry, you have the 9 locations as we discussed in depth. There's still the naysayers, though, that look, some of these guys and girls just can't be helped. Some of these folks, once dirty, they're always dirty. I mean...
Oh, you're killing me! You're killing me!
It's not the first time you heard it. And, look, the Eugene McKnight firing obviously made headlines in March, and I'm sure people were talking about that for weeks after the fact. So you know what I'm getting at. So basically, what do you say to those people with the negative perspective on the Jersey City Employment and Training Program and NJ Re-Entry?
I have a quote from Mother Teresa that's literally up there.
Yeah.
And it says, give the best, it says, the good you do will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it'll never be enough. Give your best anyway. And the final analysis is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. So at the end of the day, candidly, that's a great question, John.
Thanks.
I used to spend my life in politics trying to get 51% of the vote, right?
Right.
And now my obligation, and the mayor, and particularly Chairman Jones, and our board has given me this opportunity. My responsibility is to run, and I think in terms of the number of competitive grants, both federal grants and state grants, candidly, we've received more grants than any agency, in terms of employment agency, in terms of the history of Jersey City. And I think we're making a difference in people's lives, but at the end of the day, it's what our clients say. And at the end of the day, it's me as a candidly imperfect vessel, trying to do what I perceive God's will in my life, and as best as I can. And I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to fall down, but as the old spiritual says, we fall down, but we get up. And we get up and we try to serve the clients that we serve. And our clients are candidly people that, are among the poorest, most vulnerable, most rejected. These aren't the fancy people. These are people that have criminal convictions. Some of them are homeless. Most of them have alcoholism and addiction. These are fellow Americans, fellow citizens that unfortunately haven't received the promise of America. And our obligation, our privilege is to serve them.
Very good. Governor, a true pleasure.
Thank you.
Jim, thank you.
And Annabelle.
I was going to say thank you to Annabelle as well. And of course, thank you to all of you for
And
joining
thank you to
us.
John. Great job. He asked the hard questions. And can we thank our producer?
Yes, Mark Busanich and Bus
Poor
Reports.
Mark. I want the whole audience to know, while we're sitting here with, the fancy water and coffee, poor Mark is at some table and doing whatever he's doing.
He's always been a fantastic producer, and we're lucky and happy to have them. So everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week. Have a fantastic weekend.
God bless.